So the Supreme Court will pass its order on the BCCI on Friday. The board was cornered in the apex court again after it was asked to give an undertaking that they will implement the reforms. The court made it clear that in the absence of such an undertaking, they will pass an order that forces the board to do so.
Will the BCCI's top brass get wiped away? Will a new panel take over the Board of Cricket Control in India? What is the future of the Indian Cricket Board? These questions will be answered on the 7th of October, but the indications are clear. The way cricket is administered is all set to change. Because what happened in court brought little relief to the BCCI. Although the BCCI did maintain its stance, but it was repeatedly slammed in the apex court.
BCCI ने कहा हम तो मानने को तैयार हैं, लेकिन हमारे जो राज्य के एसोसिएशन है वो इस बात को नहीं मान रहे हैं। इस मामले पर माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने उनकी खिंचाई की और कहा कि फिर आप इनको इतने करोड़ों रुपए दे क्यों रहे हो?
The amicus curiae supported the sacking of BCCI's top brass. It said that the administrators of impeccable integrity must be placed to initiate reform in the BCCI. He also advocated for an interim board to be set up to implement Lodha panel recommendations. Chief Justice Thakur then took over and sought clarification, and then made a remark that shook the BCCI. He made it clear that the BCCI must implement the Lodha panel recommendations. He said that the BCCI must give the court an undertaking of their acceptance, failing which the Supreme Court would not hesitate to pass the order. The Supreme Court also told the state associations to return the funds given to them by the BCCI.
Do not give an undertaking tomorrow. Then it's really a court order which is going to be implemented on BCCI. But the top brass of the BCCI or the people who are not obeying the order will just be removed from the BCCI top brass and either an ad hoc body is appointed or a new body or a new person is appointed by the state associations themselves.
The writing is on the wall. In the next few hours, cricket and the way it's administered in India is all set to change. With Rahul Rawat and Anusha Soni in Delhi, Sports Bureau, India Today.
Joining us also is sports lawyer Vidushpat Singhania. Also my colleagues Rasesh Mandani and Rahul Rawat are joining us. They've been tracking developments in this case. Let me go across to Rasesh Mandani first up. Rasesh, you brought us this piece of information earlier that the BCCI is unlikely to give any kind of undertaking. They will indeed wait for the order.
That's right, Shivani. Even if it technically means that the board can still go back to the court saying that we will implement the order and give an undertaking, that is something that the BCCI is not inclined to do. That has been confirmed by a top source on the board to us. And I think another additional piece of information, one of the reasons why the BCCI is refusing to do so is not just their resistance and defiance in the whole process, but I think on an organizational point of view, we are told that even if the order is going to happen tomorrow, they may look to challenge in principle the whole order in another bench in future from an organizational standpoint, citing judicial overreach. So I think this is the kind of thought process in the BCCI that even if at this point in time Justice Thakur adjudicates that there should be a set of administrators that oversee the reform process, if the BCCI refuses, at a future date the BCCI would still want to look at this whole order as judicial overreach and they would still want to challenge it.
So that is very interesting, Rasesh, what you're saying. Let me go across to Vidushpat with this. Vidush, what do you make of this kind of a strategy in the future by the board to just challenge this entire process in itself, calling it judicial overreach? I mean, how will that work?
See, that avenue is obviously open to the board. And the Supreme Court might even decide in a later review that it was a judicial overreach. But let's not take it away from the point that the order is going to come tomorrow and it will have to be implemented by the BCCI till the time they actually challenge it and win their challenge. So we have to be very clear on that the order will be implemented if the order comes tomorrow. The second issue comes is what the BCCI is saying, whether it is judicial overreach or not. Now, the earlier judgment of the Supreme Court has clearly laid down that BCCI performs certain public functions, and they are performing those public functions with the tacit approval of the Government of India. The Government of India also has the National Sports Bill, which is still in its bill form, but it has the National Sports Development Code of India 2011, which is applicable to all other national sport federations. In those national sport federations, the cooling off period is there, the age limit is there, the tenure limit is there, the RTI applicability is there. So to that extent, there is an executive decision or the guidelines that have also been laid down, and maybe the judiciary is just implementing that. And the principles of good governance of sports, which are followed worldwide, including the IOC and the ICC, also agree to these issues pertaining to democracy in federation, solidarity principles, vision, strategy. And these Lodha recommendations are actually a way forward or a point forward into that. So I don't know whether it will be judicial overreach or executive overreach, because there is an executive guideline also in sports already in place, and a draft legislation is also in place. So it's a very tough call on that line.
Yeah, Bore, what do you make of this? I mean, just to challenge this entire order in itself, I mean, as Vidush was explaining, I mean, in the future there could be a sports bill, sports code as well, which roughly talks about the same things. How do you see that playing out, if that was the case?
Who will challenge the order? Which BCCI? Including Anurag Thakur, Ajay Shirke, Amitabh Chaudhary and Anirudh Chaudhary? No, it's a new BCCI. Will the same BCCI want to challenge the order? Will the same state associations who are fundamentally overhauled and a new constitution laid in place want to challenge the order? What are we talking about here? You know, the moment these top people are sacked, anybody who has followed Indian cricket, ask Nikhil Chopra, the rest of the 26 will run away. That has been the tradition for the longest time, will happen tomorrow. One does not even need to conjecture. So what BCCI will challenge this order, Shivani? Which BCCI?
Could it not be?
These are all far-fetched nonsense that, you know, we do not even need to take into account at this point in time.
No, just to explore this, could it not be that those who were in power, even if they are removed or do not hold any positions anymore, can challenge this, Vidush?
No, the board has to challenge it. No, the board has to
as I said, the BCCI is going to challenge the order for judicial overreach. Correct.
BCCI challenge something that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Boria. The BCCI has to challenge that order, and it is the BCCI executive that exists at that point of time which will have to challenge that order.
Okay.
If the current executive exists, then obviously they can challenge it. If they're not, then the executive that will exist at that point of time, the entity, the executive for the entity BCCI that will exist, they will have to challenge it.
All right. Well, that certainly will bring another twist to it, but seems like a far-fetched possibility right now. But of course, it's clear that the BCCI or those who are at helm in the BCCI will try their best to do everything possible. Rahul Rawat is also with us. He was in the Supreme Court all day today. Just take us through the observations, some of the other key observations, Rahul, that gave the mood of the Chief Justice of India, T.S. Thakur, away.
Well, if I can tell you what transpired in the hearing today, the Chief Justice, in fact, the three-member bench wasn't too impressed with the fact that BCCI has been completely ignorant of the order that it had already passed in July in July, and they in fact asked them very specifically, give us your final decision. Are you going to implement them or not? And towards the end, after the arguments got over, they were given an option. Probably they were obviously BCCI were not hoping for this, but definitely they were expecting the kind of statements the Chief Justice made in the court. Like, for example, he literally, the kind of arguments that were made, it seemed as if they were mocking at the BCCI president, Mr. Anurag Thakur. And they specifically asked Kapil Sibal, the legal counsel for BCCI, that you can actually, we will be inclined to pass the order, but they in fact had, if they wanted to if the BCCI wanted to delay it, they could have actually said that you know, we need time to think about it.
Right.
But they didn't. Inform the bench that they want time. In fact, they said that we won't be able to sign or give you any.
And it's
sort
quite
of
clear that they have no mind of actually giving this undertaking. Final question to Nikhil Chopra, as a cricketer and also as a selector, Nikhil. Would you welcome the new kind of BCCI that would be in place, the kind of BCCI that Boria talked about? New people, fresh people, a completely different set of minds.
I think, Shivani, until unless that happens, we don't know who are the people going to be ahead. So it's going to be really hard. But if you remember, why did this all start? It was because of more transparency in governance, in the accountability of the funds being distributed among states. And I think to some extent, that has already started taking place, that every state association will only get funds if their accounts are audited and shown where they spend the money only then. You know, those are the days gone where the states every year would just get funds, whether they spend it on cricket or they don't spend it on cricket. At the bottom line is, don't forget, BCCI or the Indian cricket is at the top at this moment in time. Every cricket body around the world is following how BCCI is looking to run their, you know, work ethics, or in terms of how they make their money with the IPL. So, you know, it's reached its pinnacle.
It's not really without its problems, though. I understand what you're saying, but it does have problems of transparency.
But I just hope the game doesn't
have
suffer.
Problems of actually letting new people in and having, you know, the kind of elections that a body can be proud of. I'm afraid that's all the time we have. This is a discussion that we will continue on Friday as well, of course.